The real Dracula, the man behind the monster. What if I told you that Dracula wasn't just a vampire from a horror story? What if the man who inspired Dracula was real? A ruler so feared that entire armies turned around rather than face him. A man whose enemies described scenes so horrifying that they seemed impossible to believe. But here's the strangest part. The real Dracula never drank blood. So how did a real prince become history's most famous monster? And was he truly evil? Or was he simply a man living in one of the most brutal periods in human history? Chapter 1. A World of Fear. To understand Dracula, we must travel back to the 15th century. Europe was a dangerous place. Kingdoms fought endless wars. Disease killed millions, and powerful empires fought for control of entire continents. One empire in particular terrified Europe, the Ottoman Empire. Its armies were growing stronger every year. Many believed that sooner or later all of Eastern Europe would fall. Standing directly in their path was a small region known as Wallachia, located in modern-day Romania. And this is where our story begins. Because in 1431, a boy named Vlad was born. Nobody knew it yet, but history would never forget his name. Chapter 2. The boy who became a weapon. Vlad's childhood was far from normal. His father ruled Wallachia, but ruling a small kingdom surrounded by powerful enemies was dangerous. Political betrayals happened constantly. One wrong move could mean death, then disaster struck. To secure peace with the Ottoman Empire, young Vlad and his brother were handed over as hostages. Imagine being a child, taken away from your home, forced to live among people who could kill you at any moment. For years, Vlad lived under Ottoman control. He learned their language. He studied their military tactics. And according to many historians, he developed a deep hatred for those who held him captive. The experience would change him forever. Chapter 3. The Return of Vlad. Years later, Vlad finally returned home, but his kingdom was in chaos. Enemies surrounded him. Nobles plotted against him. Assassinations were common. Trust was almost impossible. Most rulers would have struggled. Vlad chose another path. Fear. He believed that if people feared him enough, nobody would dare betray him. And so began one of history's most terrifying reigns. Chapter 4. The Impaler. This is the chapter that gave Vlad his infamous nickname, Vlad the Impaler. His preferred method of punishment was horrifying. Enemies, criminals, and traitors were often executed through impalement. The punishment was intended not only to kill, but to send a message, a warning, a demonstration of power. Stories spread across Europe. Some claimed hundreds were impaled. Others claimed thousands. Travelers described forests of wooden stakes, rows stretching across the landscape. Whether every story was true remains debated. But one thing is certain. Vlad wanted his enemies to be terrified, and it worked. People spoke his name in fear. Chapter 5. The night that shocked an empire. Then came the moment that turned Vlad into a legend. The Ottoman Sultan launched a massive campaign against Wallachia. His army vastly outnumbered Vlad's forces. On paper, Vlad had no chance, but he had something else. A willingness to do the unexpected. Under the cover of darkness, he launched a surprise attack. Chaos erupted. Soldiers couldn't tell friend from enemy. Confusion spread through the camp. The attack failed to kill the Sultan, but it achieved something almost as important: fear. The Ottomans realized they weren't fighting a normal ruler. They were fighting someone willing to use every trick imaginable. Chapter 6: The Forest of the Dead. As the Ottoman army advanced, they reportedly encountered one of the most disturbing sights in military history: thousands of impaled bodies. A gruesome display designed to break their morale. Imagine marching for days, then suddenly seeing a landscape covered with the remains of defeated enemies. Many soldiers were horrified. Some accounts claim even hardened warriors were shocked. Whether the numbers were exaggerated or not, the psychological impact was enormous. Vlad understood something that modern warfare still teaches. Fear can be as powerful as weapons. Chapter 7: Hero or Monster. Here's where the story becomes complicated. In many Western accounts, Vlad was portrayed as a cruel monster, a sadistic ruler, a man who enjoyed suffering. But in Romania, many viewed him differently. To them, Vlad was a defender, a ruler who protected his homeland from invasion, a man who punished corruption, a leader who fought powerful enemies. So which version is true? The monster or the hero? The answer may be both. History is rarely simple, especially when written by enemies and supporters alike. Chapter 8: The Birth of Dracula. More than 400 years after Vlad's death, an Irish writer named Bram Stoker was searching for a name for his vampire character. During his research, he discovered the name Dracula. The word came from Vlad's family line and was associated with his father. Stoker loved the sound of it, and so Count Dracula was born. The vampire legend would become one of the most famous horror stories ever written. Movies, books, TV shows, games, all helped transform Dracula into a global icon. Yet most people never realized the character was inspired by a real ruler who once walked the earth. Chapter 9: The Final Question. So, was Vlad Dracula truly a monster? Or was he simply a product of a brutal age? An age where mercy could cost a king his throne, where weakness invited invasion, where fear was often the only language enemies understood. Perhaps that's why his story continues to fascinate us, because it forces us to ask a difficult question. If we lived in his world, would we have acted differently? Or would we have become monsters too? The real Dracula wasn't a vampire. He didn't sleep in a coffin, and he certainly didn't have supernatural powers. But the truth may be even more fascinating than the myth, because sometimes the most terrifying monsters in history were completely human. If you enjoyed this journey into dark history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more forgotten stories from the past. Until next time, stay curious.